ikkada meeru chusara, there is one thing that is there here. There is something like AWS reinvent is happening in Las Vegas from November 27th to December 1st. Okay, you can also attend this event virtually also as well. In case if you guys have some time and then passion to explore what exactly is this reinvent, okay, it is of so super good basically. Okay, in the Thanksgiving mode, if you have some time, I ask you to register this one and then attend these particular sessions. It is guaranteed that you get satisfied with the reinvent sessions what you're going to have basically. Okay. So here we go. So the first thing, Sham, right? Your name is Sham, right?
Yeah.
Sham is asking is, can we delete and upload the same thing again and again, basically for that particular bucket you are asking, right? Basically, okay. So here, when you try to select this, what was the bucket that was created yesterday? AWS, Ravi AWS DDA S3 demos. Assuming that this is the bucket that has been created. Okay. When you go to the properties, what happens is you have something called as what is this one you see here? Versioning, bucket versioning. That means that you can have the option of, suppose you see here, when you go to the objects, this is the coffee.jpg is there here. Okay. Today, what you did is that you added one more cup to that coffee.jpg, JPG, and then you try to upload that one here. So generally, when I try to upload this coffee bucket once again, suppose when you go to this upload, and when I try to add this particular this thing here, and I'm trying to add this coffee.jpg here into this S3 bucket, what happens is try to upload this one, it uploads. And then when you try to close this one, what is being shown here? The other one, what you're having here, has been overrated, and then now you're seeing something like November 7, you're seeing here, right, Sham?
Yes.
But when you try to maintain that versioning, what happens is you can maintain the old version along with you can try to maintain this new version also as well. That is the purpose of versioning. So that's why if you are having this particular versioning that is enabled, there is no need for you to delete anything within this S3 bucket. Okay, there is no need for you to delete anything with respect to this S3 bucket. What you can do is, while trying to keep this particular versioning, suppose I go to these properties, just let me tell you here. When you try to keep this versioning and enable this one here, enable this one and then save these changes. Okay, once this is done, you go to these objects, you try to upload once again with adding the same copy once again here. Try to upload this one here. We need to show this one here. Okay, 1 minute to show you this one. Versions. See here, there are two versions that are existing here. Chandrakalgar, you are seeing here, there are two versions that are existing here for this same coffee.jpg image here in this case. Two versions. So that means that when you enable the versions for a particular object or a bucket, automatically you can have the option of storing n number of versions. There is no need for you to delete anything basically in this case. Sham, I hope you are following, right?
Yes, Raghav, got it.
Yeah. Any other
So
question?
the namings will be here, it is showing like ID, it is showing, right? But how can we know that this particular file ID is related to that particular file?
It depends on the timestamp you see here. Timestamp. The timestamp is going to give you the latest version of what you're having over there, basically. So initial timestamp, what has been created, will be treated as null here. Okay. From this particular null only, the respective versions are being spanned across this particular mode here in this case. Okay.
Okay.
Then, so what we discussed about an S3 bucket. Okay. We also discussed about trying to make this S3 public. Okay. And we also discussed about something called as pre-signed URLs also as well, basically. Okay. And the other option what you're having is you can also have the option of trying to use your S3 bucket as a static website also as well. S3 bucket as a static website. How do you do that one? I'll tell you. Basically, of course, we are not going to create any buckets for static websites, but just trying to make sure that this is the way you can have the option of creating these things. So please open this one. When you go to the properties, Vaishnavi, welcome to AWS. Here you're having something called a static web hosting is there here. Static web hosting. Okay. Before I use this static web hosting, what I do is that let me go ahead, go to this properties, and then try to upload some more objects to this one. What I'm doing is that I go to this place and then I'm adding this one as index.html. What is the purpose of index.html? Can anybody tell me? What is the specialty of index.html? I already told you.
It is the page which hosts the website, like.
Yeah, it is the page that shows this particular, the initial page of your website is being shown with the help of this index.html. And third thing what I do is that I try to mention this one as beach.html or beach.jpg file also. I'll try to store these things here. Okay, I'll try to upload these things, and then right now you have these 4 files that exist within your static S3 bucket here. Now I have a question here. When you're trying to load the data, when I'm trying to load the data through this S3 through this web browser, what is the maximum size of the file that I can load? What is the maximum size of the file that I can load into this bucket? The maximum size of the file is something like 5 yeah, 5 gigabytes that we can load. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yeah, index page is nothing but the home page. Exactly. Okay, so I go to these properties, go to this static website here, static website hosting, click on this edit button. Here, what I'm doing is that I'm trying to enable the static web hosting enabled. I'm trying to host a static website, but here I told you, right, every website will be having an index document. Yesterday also, when you're trying to create this EC2 service, EC2 instance, there within that user script, I have mentioned something called as index.html. So that's why here the index document, what you are having here is also treated as index.html. I'll mention here. And error document, what you're having here, in case if you are having, you can mention this one as error.html, which is of no use also as well. You mention this one and then click on this save changes. Click on this save changes. So here you have something like static web hosting. It is being provided something called as an endpoint. Endpoint is something which is important. Endpoint ante, it is nothing but a website link that we can use for the purpose of accessing that service of AWS. So that's why, see here, when you configure your web bucket as a static website, This website is available at the AWS region specific website endpoint of this bucket. What is the endpoint? The endpoint is nothing but your URL. The endpoint is nothing but your URL. So you select this URL and then come here, and then when you try to paste this one here, you'll be able to see something like I love coffee. Hello world, and then I can try to print like this. Vaishnavi will start saying something like she never loves coffee, but she loves AWS. That's what is going to happen. So this is what is your website. So is it not that with the help of EC2 also as well, we can have the option of making your EC2 instance as a web server, as well as we can also have the option of trying to create your S3 bucket also as a static website, which can host your static websites. This is the way also you can have the option of creating these things also as well, basically. So that is what is S3. Okay, but yesterday, is Pravina joined today?
Yes.
Okay, are you following?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Sumana, are you following?
Yes, sir.
So, okay, and another thing, thank you. So another thing that I have told you yesterday is the policy generator. What is the purpose of policy generator? Can anybody tell me what is this policy generator and how it is important?
To give the permissions we can generate through the policy generator.
Policy generator is basically used to create the permissions. In what format it is going to create the permissions? In what notation?
JSON.
Policy generator is going to generate the permissions within JSON notation. Okay, that's the reason that policy generator happens to be very, very important. Okay, so there is no need for you to start A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H like that to start learning this particular programming. Okay, so I have shown you how to do this one here. When you go to this bucket, when you go to this permissions, this is the place where you have something like bucket policy that exists. When you click on this bucket policy, this is the place where you go, and this is the place where you have this policy generator. And what is this principle here? What you are having here? What is this principle called? You tell me.
This is permission actually.
Principles are nothing but the users.
Yes.
Principles are nothing but the users. They might be the roles also as well. That means that I want to allow one operation. What is that operation? Get object operation to all the users across the globe. That's why it is treated as principle. So when you say something called as, when you see something called as global here, what does it mean? When you see something called as global, what does it mean? That means that
Everyone can use.
The object name is unique throughout the globe.
The object name happens to be unique throughout the globe. The object name is going to be unique throughout the globe. Throughout the globe. Okay. And the second thing is S3 objects happens to be created at the region level. Okay. That is the second thing that you need to understand. And third thing, what I'm saying is what is this least privilege option? What is the least privilege that we can see? I told you something called as least privilege on the earlier classes. What is that least privilege that we are talking here? And whenever you are creating any user in AWS, that means that that user should not be provided with all the privileges. He should be given the bare minimum privilege to access. That's why such a type of option is basically treated as a least privilege option that we call basically least privilege option. Okay, so within the JSON policy, there are three things that is important. One is effect is important, the action is important, and then this particular resource happens to be really important in this particular case. Okay. Now, can anybody tell me? I want Chandrakala and Kavit to answer. What is the main difference between a public IP and a private IP?
Public IP changes
Public IP is something that can be accessed across the globe for that EC2 instance. Private IP means within that instance itself, when you want to communicate, you will be using this private IP. Okay. Now, what is something that will change and what is something that won't change? Will the public IP change or will the private IP changes?
Public IP will check.
Public IP will change. When the public IP changes, please tell me. When the public IP will change?
Restart the instance.
When the EC2 instance is stopped and then once you restart, the public IP will get changed. Okay, and there is one more question which is out of box. I have mentioned but have not covered. But again, I'm asking. Okay, the question is, what should I do to make that public IP address should not change, even though I start and stop the instance? What is that IP called? What is that IP called?
It's an elastic IP address.
It's an elastic IP address. Yes, it's an elastic IP address. Kavit garu meeku gurtunda? I told you. Instance ni start chesi stop chesin tarvata kuda, if I don't want to have this IP address to change, then what I need to do is that I need to talk about the concept of this elastic IPs, which we'll be seeing at a later point of time. Okay, that is one thing we have seen. And what is an AMI? AMI? Amazon Machine Image. What it contains? It contains something, the list of all the operating system images. Okay, that we need to look into that free tier. And what is one thing that you need to be careful about within this AWS? Attending the class, you need to be careful, or something else?
Budgeting.
Budgeting is something that you need to be really careful. Budgeting happens is something that is really careful. You just want to make sure that everything what you do should be within free tier. Everything what you do should always be within free tier. Okay. And the second thing what I have told you is that the moment once you spin an EC2 instance, please ensure that either you stop that instance or you terminate that instance for good. You try to terminate that particular instance for good. So that's why every time what you need to do is that you need to go to this account, and within this account you have something like billing dashboard, and within this billing dashboard you try to go to this free tier. I'll show you. Within this one you try to go to this particular free tier, and then what you do is you try to see the list of all the services that has been consumed so far, basically, in order to do these particular things, basically. Okay, these are the things that we are going to use basically in this particular case. Okay. Now, today, what I want to do is that I want to take some extra time in order to tell you something called as RDS. RDS. It's going to be a pure practical that we are going to do. And I'll be focusing on the complete step-by-step process. Why should we have this RDS? Because the name of the course, what we are doing is AWS Data Engineering and Data Analytics, Vaishnavi. Okay. So when we are talking about data, the first thing that you need to understand is how should I create a database within AWS? That is one thing that is really, really important. So that's why generally when you need to install the database on your local desktop or within your office laptop, what you are supposed to do is that you need to take a lot of precautions, right? In the office also as well, suppose if you need to give the access, or else if you need to take the backups, or else if you want to clone something, or else if you want to take a backup or something of that sort, whom should you contact? You need to contact a particular person called as DBA. DBA. right? So the database administrator is the person who will be responsible for the purpose of installing the database software, providing the access, putting all the database instances, doing the backup, recovery, cloning, and all the things. So that means that we need to have a DBA for that one. Okay. What if AWS itself manages all the tasks that the DBA does? What if the AWS manages all the tasks that the DBA does? Okay. In such a case, we are going to have a very phenomenal, I'm using the word called as phenomenal component within database. And within this particular database, what you're having is RDS. What is being shown here is something called as managed relational database service. You see that one, right? It is managed. The reason why it is treated as managed, suppose when you happens to be a property manager, okay, what you need to do, you should be responsible for the purpose of putting the house in the market for rent, for lease, for sale, something of that sort. And if any repairs comes in that particular house, you'll be taking care of, not the owner, basically, right? So here, when we say something called as a managed relational database service, automatically what I do is that I only use the services, but everything else, the patches, the software, the backup, and everything happens to be managed by your AWS itself. That's why it is stated as managed relational database service, which is fundamental to the data engineering that we are going to do, basically, RDS. Okay, so select this RDS here. Question, are you following? Now, this is your RDS. What is saying here? Try your new Amazon RDS. Like when you go to McDonald's, or when you go to Chick-fil-A, or when you go to some new restaurant, or something, they say that this is our new recipe that has come. Try it out. That's why they are saying something like try it out. Kavita garu, what is that they are asking us? They are asking us to create a database. Right? They're asking us to create a database directly. Okay, so for the purpose of creating this database, without hesitating, let us go ahead and then create this database. But I don't show the screen. Which database you want to create, Vineet? Or Chandrakal, which database you want to create? Do you have something in mind? You want to create this database or that database or something of that sort? I have the option of creating a Microsoft. Yeah, in Microsoft, you have SQL Server, right? You generally create SQL Server database. You can create MySQL database. You can create Oracle database, like that, basically, right? So when you go onto this page and when you click on this create database, see here, 1 minute. It is whether you want to create a standard create or whether you want to create this easy create. Never and never go for easy create. Okay, when you try to go for this easy create, what happens is that it will be quickly creating the database and then it will be telling you. But as a AWS data engineer or a data analyst, what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to go through step-by-step process of understanding what each and every feature means, what it does, and you need to understand in what scenarios these options should be applied before you go ahead and then create this particular database. That's the reason. So I want to standard create. So Shyam, what it is telling here, you set all the configuration options, including security, backups, and all this particular maintenance. So Shyam, my question is that who is going to maintain all these backups and administration? You or AWS?
We have to maintain that as a data.
Who does that?
DBS.
No, Baba. In AWS does that.
Okay. So this is for the creating the database, right?
Yeah.
So are we installing any database? So
We are not installing any database. We are only selecting this is the database that I want. And in the background, everything is done by AWS and then it will provide you the database basically, right? That's how it works. EC2 మీరు క్రియేట్ చేయలేదు కదండి. EC2 you mentioned that these are the options that you want, and based on the options what you have selected, that instance has been created by AWS and it has been given to you, right? The same thing it is going to happen here also as well.
okay.
Okay, so this is the standard create I'm following, and then these are all the different data types that you're having here. Oracle is there, and you have this SQL Server. SQL Server is there, and then Postgres, MariaDB, and all these things are there. To make the things simple, as the first step, let us go with this particular MySQL. Okay, so once you select this particular MySQL, the next thing what is going to happen is that the latest version that you're having is something like MySQL 8.0.33. Okay, when you go here and then go to Google and then see this MySQL latest version. Here 8.0.23, right? Is it the same thing that is being shown here? 8.0.33 is being shown here. This is latest. So you select this particular latest version and then the templates. You want to be in the free tier? Sumana, you are following, right? You want to be in the free tier? Manugna, this is Devon test, and then you have this particular production. Okay. If you want to be in the free tier, you can do this one here. But when you want to customize the things, and still you want to maintain that you should be within the free tier limits, I suggest you to select this particular production thing. Okay. Once you select this particular production thing, the moment it comes here, whether you want to have a cluster or whether you want to have a single database instance, ante your database will be existing on only one single node like this. I'll show you one diagram for that matter, and then you can see here. Of course, this is Snowflake, but I'm showing here. If you want to have a single node like this, you can select only a single node cluster, single node machine. But if you want to have your database to be present in more than one node, which happens to be a cluster like this, then we suggest this particular thing to be mentioned with respect to this cluster thing here. See here, single database instance you can select. You can select this multi-AZ database instance. We'll talk about these things. And we select this multi-AZ DB classes. In the first classes, we talked about availability zones. What are those availability zones? Can anybody understand what are those availability zones? You remember what is the globalization hierarchy of AWS? Can anybody tell me what is the global hierarchy of AWS? We mentioned something like there is a
regions,
then
availability.
Yeah, regions and availability zones. So initially what you have is that you have these regions. Within this particular regions, you have these availability zones. Within the availability zones, what you're going to have? You have these data centers that exist. We call them as AGs, availability zones. And within this availability zones only, you're going to have these data centers. That is the place where all your computing infrastructure exists basically like this. This is the hierarchy that we follow here. So every region what you're having here, will be having at least 2 or 3 availability zones. I think minimum 3 availability zones, I think. They'll be having these 3 availability zones. This is one availability zone, okay? And I take like this, copy, and then I'll try to paste it like this. Bring it like this. And you want to have this region to be connected to this availability zone like this. Now, what it is asking is, whether your database should be created only within a single availability zone, or whether you want to have this database thing to be existing in multiple availability zones here, or whether you want to have this one to be a replica copy here. So when you have two these things, then this will be acting as a main database instance, and this will be acting as a production copy. This will be acting as a standby. Ravikumar garu meer follow up together. This will be acting as a production copy in this case here. Okay, that is the thing that they are asking here. So that's why you need to understand whether you want to have a multi-AZ DB instance or whether you want to have a single DB instance. Instance means only one node. But I can mention something like multi-AZ DB cluster. That means that your database instance is made up of more than one node. That is what is treated as cluster. So just to be in the best of all the worlds, it is better to keep this one as single database instance. Okay, so see here, what is being said here, MySQL is the most popular open source database. MySQL and offer refers to all these SQL communities and all those things basically. But one thing what I'm saying is we created, we specified the standard create, and then we select that the database engine, what you are having here happens to be your MySQL. The third thing what we did is that we try to mention this version, which happens to be the latest version. There are so many versions that you can see here, but better to make sure that we create this latest version. And then three options: you want to create a dev and test, or you want to create a free tier, or whether you want to have this one. So you select this particular production. Okay, once you select this particular production, then availability and durability. Like availability and suppose when you see here, if this main server goes down, I'll have this standby as a backup generator like this, basically, right? This can become available in case if this becomes down. That's why it is called as availability. That's the reason what we do is that we try to install this. We'll try to install this databases of MySQL in more than one availability zone, more than one AG basically. That's the reason we try to mention like this, single database instance. Now, it will be asking you to specify the name of the database. Okay, so please specify the name of the database 2. That is earlier I created database 1. So you please mention that you create the name of the database as database 2 you can create. Okay, and then credentials. What you please try to maintain these things here. The name of the user, what we are giving here is nothing but your admin. The name of the user, what you are giving here is nothing but your admin. And once you have this admin, it will ask you to mention this password also as well. So you can mention this master password and then confirm password. So please try to mention that password also as well, which is try to make a note of that particular password also as well. So here, what is that one that has been specified here? It has been specified as database-2, right? That has been mentioned here, and this is the password that we have mentioned here. Credential settings, admin, and then the password happens to be the master password, and then we mentioned that particular password also as well. So just to reconfirm, let me try to remember this one. Okay, once it has been done, what I want to do is that see, for a database, what you need to have a server, right? If you don't have a server, you will not be able to install this database. Basically, even on my laptop also as well. If I want to install my database, I need to have a server first. So that's the reason. First thing is that try to include the previous generation classes also as well here. So when you try to include your previous generation classes, and when you try to open this one, it will show you something like free tier thing. Where is that free tier thing here? Not this one. Is there any T2 that you can see here? when you go to this burstable classes, there is a T2 micro that you can see. Where did we use this T2 micro earlier? Can anybody tell me?
During EC2 insta.
Creating EC2
During EC2 instance creation, we created the T2 micros. So please switch on to the T2 micro only because it contains only 1 vCPU and then 1 GB RAM. That's the reason you need to make sure that you mention this one as burstable classes because it includes these T classes. Because T is nothing but your EC2 instance family. We'll talk about that one. So I mentioned this burstable classes, and then this is this T2 micro that you mentioned. Okay, because that means that what you are doing here is when you create this new slide, you are just trying to make sure that you need to create a server first, right? So this is the server that you are creating, and what is this server here? This server is nothing but your T2 micro. This server is nothing but your T2 micro, and within this micro, what you are doing is that you are trying to install your own database, basically like this. This is your database, like this is your database, and here we call this one as MySQL. So within this T2 micro, what are the things that you are doing here? The thing what you're doing is this is of one virtual CPU, CPU. And then this is nothing but 1 gigabyte RAM that you are mentioning. But what we else need? We need to have something like hard disk. We need to have the storage that we need to have. So the next option that we are trying to present here is nothing but your storage. So within the storage, so within this particular storage, what you try to do is that you please try to mention this thing. See, provision and all these particular things we can see here, but when you try to select this general purpose, because we want to be in the free tier. When you want to be in the free tier, please make sure that we try to provide this general purpose SSD, GP2 or GP3, and the allocated storage what you're having here is nothing but your 20 GB is something that we need to allocate. What is the minimum gigabytes that we use for EC2? What is the minimum gigabytes that we use for EC2? You tell me.
8 GB.
8 GB is the minimum gigabytes that we use basically. 8 GB. Okay, so here there should be minimum 20 GB, and what is the maximum here? 6,000. This betti so sorry spin chesi 2 రోజులు ఉంచండి మీ బ్యాంక్ ఖాళీగా పోతే నన్ను అడగండి. Like that it works. 20 GB is the minimum thing that we have been allocating here in this case. Okay. Once that is being allocated, here it will ask you something like when you open this auto scaling, I just want to make sure if this 20 GB is not sufficient, I can have the capability to extend this particular storage from 20 GB to at the max of 1000 GB. I can specify this. If my disk is full, automatically what I can do is that it is just like this, right? I'll show you here. When I go to this my PC, here it shows that this is only 127 GB is free. If this also is getting occupied automatically, what I need to do? I need to put one more disk manually. But there, what is being done is that I'm trying to mention this one as auto scaling. Auto scaling means it will automatically create that particular storage, extend that particular storage to a max of this 1000 gigabytes, basically. So these options are clear what you have done here, basically. So I have mentioned once again the standard create. The next thing what you are having is the database type that you have mentioned, and then the version of the database. Then I mentioned this one as the production, just to make sure that we try to include all these particular features. Then availability happens to be a single DB instance. Ravigar, I hope you understood the difference between this multi-zone and the cluster here, right? Basically.
Yes, sir. Yes, yeah.
And then I specified this one as database 2 here. Along with this one as the username is admin, and then I mentioned this password as master password here. and I mentioned something like I need to use this EC2, right? I need to have this EC2 machine. The EC2 machine is something like T2 micro, because we mentioned this T2 micro here, and then the storage happens to be the general purpose solid storage disk, something of the solid storage drive or whatever it is there.
So this SSD, like, so whatever we consume, we have to give, or we have to give 20 GB at a, like,
Minimum should be 20 GB.
so even if when we create the database, if it takes only 2 to 3 GB means, and also like the data is not there much. It is just, if it is, even though it is a to 5 GB, then still we have to give 20 GB, or like
Yes,
5
sir.
GB.
Yes, still we have to give 20 GB because
Okay.
the minimum value is 20 GB here, basically.
Okay.
Minimum value is 20 GB. That's why you have to give that 20 GB over there, because it contains all that metadata also as well, right? Basically, for any database, the system data and metadata that it need to store and it need to maintain that one, right? Because in any database, you will be having this application data along with that system data. Even to maintain that particular system data, it needs a lot of memory. That's the reason they mention this one as the best practice, basically.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then I mentioned this scaling I have mentioned here. Now, this is your EC2 system here. This is your EC2 system. SQL Server generally get connect అవుతారండి మీరు చెప్పండి. How do you connect to a SQL Server database?
Username and password.
కాదు. Yeah, that is username and password, but you use that SSMS,
Endpoint.
SQL Server Management Studio use, right, for the purpose of connecting to that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Here, it is going to ask you whether you want to connect to your MySQL by creating a new EC2 instance. Whether you want to connect to your new SQL by creating a new EC2 instance, like this is EC2. And you need to create a new EC2 instance, and then you need to connect this one to this place like this. Or there is one feature here. I'll show you this feature. There is a, like SQL Server, there is one tool that we use. What is that tool here? This is nothing but your SQL Electron. This one we can use. SQL Electron is there. Okay, we can use this like SQL Server Management Studio we can use. So if I really don't want to connect to my MySQL database with the help of this EC2 instance, I don't want to do like this, then what you need to do is that if you want to use a type of tools like something like MS MySQL Workbench is there. MySQL Workbench. I'll show you these things tomorrow. Workbench, or else you can have the option of using this SQL Electron, right? Like this, and then you want to connect from your laptop. And EC2 happens in your Amazon Web Services, right? From EC2, if you want to connect to this one, or whether you want to connect locally from this one to this place. If we want to do this one, I need to mention like this here. So here what it is asking is the connectivity, whether you want to connect to a EC2 compute resource to this database, or you don't want to connect to this one. My thing is that I don't want to connect to an EC2 compute resource, because I want to connect outside of AWS through an workbench, SQL workbench, and that workbench I'm going to use for the purpose of connection. That's why we would like to use that one basically. Okay, so I select this one here, and then these VPCs and all you try to mention as it is. Okay, Kavitkara, you tell me whether I need to mention the public access as yes or no.
No.
So Ravigar, one question, no? Like VPC by default, it will create something,
Yeah, VPCs is a separate topic that we need to see, but here every account will be having a default VPC, virtual private cloud, that they use basically. Okay. So we can have the option of using the default VPC, or you can create a new VPC, but we'll talk about that VPC once we get into networking. Okay. So for now, we are trying to switch that one to the default VPC and default subnet at this point of time. Okay. Now, here, we have this public access. Kavit garu, because when I say something like you have your MySQL workbench, which is your local system, right? This is your local instance. From your local instance, when you're trying to connect to your EC2 on Amazon, that means that this is your public instance, right? Basically, this is your public thing.
Yeah.
So that's why what should happen is when you, 1 minute. Vinith, you are following? Okay, when you want to do this one, then the type of connection what you need to use nothing but your public connection only we have to give here. This is your public here. This is your public that we need to mention here. So that's the reason you go here and then try to mention this one as public access. Yes, we're trying to mention this one as public access. Okay, so for now, you try to mention this security group firewalls is also the same, nothing else at this point of time. And another thing is that what is this additional configuration when you go? This is the port that we use here. 3306 is nothing but the port that we use in order to connect to this database of MySQL. Okay, and here, how I am going to connect to my database? I'm going to connect to the database with the help of this password authentication only. That is, authenticates with the database passwords. You remember in the top, we mentioned something like I use this master password and the username. What is the username here? Sorry.
Admin.
Yeah. I use this master password and the username for the purpose of connecting to this one. So that's why I mentioned this one as password authentication. Monitoring. What is this monitoring? Can anybody tell me? Why should we monitor?
Performance.
See, if something else is going wrong, or else if the database is down, or else if the database is up and running, I just want to monitor what exactly is going on. Okay, so that's the reason you need to mention what type of monitoring that you want. I really don't need any monitoring here. Okay, so that means that enhanced monitoring are useful, metrics are useful when you want to see how the different processes or threads use the CPU. So I'm not really concerned about that one. That's why I'm trying to maintain this one here. So how much is my monthly cost that you are seeing here? 14.71 per month. అలా కాకుండా ఒకవేళ మీరు ఏం చేస్తారంటే you come here, take this one as memory, this one. Okay. ఈ మెమరీ పెట్టినప్పుడు what is the minimum size it is asking here? 100 GB. Right? ఇది ఉందనుకోండి, ఇప్పుడు వెళ్ళినప్పుడు దాని సైజ్ ఎంత పెరిగిందో చూడండి ఇక్కడ. Estimated monthly cost. Vaishnavi, shall we spend this much?
I have one question query.
Okay.
So, when we are creating a database, which OS flavor it will take automatically by the instance?
SQL Server అయితే కనుక it automatically takes Windows.
Okay, so if we, in case if you want, for example, if you select the Postgres, so it will take any CentOS flavor or Red Hat, anything like that, or if you want any.
It will take in that Linux only, basically, for that matter. It will take only Linux.
Okay, so if you want any specific OS to be installed on the database, we have any options? So like Red Hat, I want to install the database on the Red Hat. Example, for some application, we need some flavor, right?
Arun garu, you are asking that question, right? Arun, right? You are asking that
Yes.
question.
Yes, sir.
The thing is, when you want to be on your own, okay, the better thing what we suggest is create a new EC2 instance. Okay, create a new EC2 instance. You install your required operating system on that EC2 instance, and then you know something like BYOL. BYOL.
No, sir. No, sir.
bring your own license. Bring your own license and then install that license on that EC2 machine and then use it. Here,
Okay.
everything happens to be AWS managed. When everything is going to be AWS managed, the EC2 instances, the underlying operating systems, the CPU, the memory, the storage, the networking is totally under the control of the AWS itself, because it is AWS which is managing. Okay.
Okay.
And the second thing is that we need to be the silent spectators of the game, provided if we go to this RDS. Okay. But if you want to make sure that you should have the liberty and freedom of customizing everything what you want to do for your own experimental and R&D purposes, let us not get into the route of this RDS. Okay. Let us go into the route of that EC2. You remember we created that EC2 instances. You go to EC2, into that EC2, you try to create a plain vanilla server, put an operating system what you want, okay, and make sure that you have the enough budget, bring your own license, and then put it over there. That's the way. And there you can install your database, whatever you want, and then you can manage.
So that means while selecting the EC2, we don't select any images, right? That's what it is. We don't need to select any image at all. Just
అప్పుడు image select చేసుకోవాలి. You need to select that particular image. Which image you want to select is up to you. You can select any image for that particular matter. For example, ఒక నిమిషం అండి. Since you asked, and then let me go here. ఇప్పుడు ఇది RDS కదా. Let me switch this RDS to this EC2 here. It takes a minute. Guys, can you stay another 15 minutes? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
When we go to this EC2 here, when you try to launch this instance, when you go to this launch instance, you have so many instances, so many AMIs that we can use. Let me come to this part. Okay. You go application and OS images, which is nothing but your Amazon machine image. And one more thing is that if you are so much creative enough, you can create your own EMI and then sell it in the market also as well, if you want to.
He has given bunch of AMIs now.
Vast ocean of AMIs that they have given here. Amargar, I hope you are following, right? Yeah. So when you see here, when you try to see, I think Arun, you are asking, right? These are all the different types of Red Hat, Linux, SUSE you are talking about.
Yes, sir.
If you still are not satisfied with all these images, then you go to the marketplace and then search for the thing what you are asking. There you definitely find. In case if you don't find, I told you something like BYOL. What is that BYOL?
Bring your own.
Bring your own license. Install it. And then create your brand. Then you say that Arun is not a name, it's a brand. Okay? And then sell it and then use it. That is how you do this one here. Now come to this. So here, general provision is something like GP3, which is of 200. Sorry.
But one question, Ravi. His question is on the Postgres, right? Postgres is already part of the RDS, right?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Okay.
Postgres, Aurora, this one, and MySQL, MariaDB. These are all the different products of this one. For Oracle and SQL Server, The customization is different, but I'll tell you, Amar Garu, at some point of time.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So here, let me go back here. I will. I think there is something that we changed here, right? Here, I need to go to this burstable classes. Within this burstable classes, please make sure that you get this T2 micro, because this one is the thing that we want. When we get this T2 micro only, then this will be the 20 GB, basically in this case. Okay, I mentioned all the connectivity here once again. Here we try to create an RDS proxy. We didn't do anything. The database authentication we mentioned, and the estimated cost is going to be 14.71. It shows estimated, but still you are trying to use only the free tier thing. You will not be charged for that 720 hours of consumption, whatever it is. Okay, you mentioned all these particular things within the additional configuration. You mentioned something like initial database name. Okay, so when you want to mention this initial database name, you can mention that one. 1 minute. I can specify this initial database name as MyDB. Please note on this one here. This is the MyDB that I'm going to create here. And let me note on this one. MyDB I'll create. And then what you do is logs. I'm not trying to maintain any logs at this point of time. No replication, no maintenance window. Suppose if you want to have a maintenance window, you can specify. But since this is AWS managed, it will automatically should take care of the things. Mention this one and then click on this create database. So all the options are clear to you guys. Chandrakal Garu, Kavita, Manogna, Kaliban, Kabilin, Chaitu.
Clear.
Okay. So once all these things are done, then what you do is that you click on this create database. Takes its own time to create some database. Okay, it says something, don't worry about these things. Close this. It starts creating this database too. Suppose you select this one, and when you try to select this one, and what you do is that you can have the option of actions. Delete this one, reboot this one, those things will exist. So not this one, this one. This one, these actions, what you can do is that you can stop it. You can reboot this one. This is a server, right? Basically, that's why you can do this one basically. Okay, anyway, I'll be deleting this thing. So let me make sure that we run that one over there.
Ravi, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So the Portuguese DB is a Amazon one, right? Okay, so but we are selected MySQL, right? Okay, is there any specific reason or just like?
No. Just like that, to make sure that we want to start with a simple plain vanilla database instance. That's the reason we have selected MySQL. But going forward, we'll be working with Aurora and then Postgres also as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So whatever the charges we are seeing, $14. Okay, if we select the Portuguese also, it would be charged. I mean,
of course, yeah, it should be charged.
okay.
I think this is still creating. Hold on. This will take 5 minutes basically, but let me create that instance because I don't want to mess up with this one.
So if you create multiple databases, each will be charged $14 or $15, right?
It is a monthly usage, right? It's a monthly usage.
Okay, if we stop.
But see, that is estimated. But as long as you are trying to be there within the free tier, you will not be charged.
Okay, so if we can hold it temporarily or not the database is not running, then we are good, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I just want to make sure there are 1-2 more settings that we need to do. But before that one, I just want you guys to go to this place. Here you have something like a SQL Electron for Windows. You see here, SQL Electron for Windows. When you SQL Electron here, there is a SQL Electron, one single DB for any relational database. You select this one here. And once you select this one, I want to download this GUI. Please open this one. When you open this one here, you'll be seeing something like a Windows thing that exists here. Windows thing that is .exe. SQL Electron 1.38.exe is there. Okay. You please download this one. I'll share you the link here. Please download this one and then install that one basically. I'll share the link here. I need to create a WhatsApp group in case if everything has completed the registrations with their companies. But yeah, this is the thing that you need to install. And once you install, then automatically what happens is, first let me see if this is available. Why is this packing up here? Okay. Okay, so you need to install this one. So here within this downloads, when you go to this downloads, when you go to this downloads, you can see here in the morning, this is this one here. SQL Electron Setup 1.38.0 is the thing that you need to install. When you install this one, you should be able to get this SQL Electron here. This is the thing that you need to get it basically. Okay, so right now I'm just waiting for this SQL Electron to be set up here. I don't know why this is this blacking up. Did you change it or something?
So that is an independent tool. It's
Yeah,
nothing
there
to
is an
do.
independent tool outside AWS basically.
Okay. So Microsoft has one, and this is similar to that, right?
It's similar to that one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ravi garu,
Yeah.
so now we have created the database, right? Here.
Yeah.
This database is created on that EC2 instance,
This
right?
database has created under the T2 micro EC2 instance. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So for just like for cost effective wise, we are not keeping the EC2 that Linux instance up and running. So we are stopping the services every time. Okay, when we are done our activity.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, are we able to access this database?
ఇప్పుడు suppose
అక్కడ
when you
EC2
select this one, when you go to the actions and then when you try to stop it temporarily, you'll not be able to access it.
Okay.
When it is running only, you'll be able to access. When you try to reboot only, you'll be able to access. Otherwise, you won't be able to do that one.
ఓకే అక్కడ EC2 ఇన్స్టెన్స్ ఒకవేళ అక్కడ స్టాప్ చేస్తే
ఎవరు స్టాప్ చేసి అసలు ఆ EC2 ఇన్స్టెన్స్ ని ఇప్పుడు ఇది చూస్తున్నారు కదా ఇది దిస్ వన్ దిస్ EC2 ఇన్స్టెన్స్ వాట్ యూర్ హ్యాంగ్ హియర్ విల్ నాట్ బి ఏబుల్ టు యాక్సెస్ అట్ ఆల్ దీన్ని మీరు అసలు యాక్సెస్ చేయలేరు దీన్ని
ఓకే
దిస్ ఈస్ సంథింగ్ దట్ యూ కెనాట్ రియలీ యాక్సెస్ because this is under the scope of AWS. The only one thing that you can do is that you will be able to access only this MySQL either with another EC2 instance or else with another MySQL workbench or something of that sort. That is the way only you will be able to access.
The database will be running all the time.
The database will be the database within this T2 micro EC2 instance will be running all the time, but you really don't have anything to do with this EC2 instance. We cannot even touch this one to also as well because this is AWS managed. అర్థమైందండి మీకు
ఓకే
I don't know why this is backing up here basically, but
so Ravi garu, one in the next the classes, no, one example with database migrations, like a couple of tables or something like.
Yeah, we'll be doing that one, and we'll be doing.
Yeah.
See, right now this is available. 1 minute. This is available. We'll be doing that one, Ravi garu, for sure.
Okay, and yeah.
When we అది అసలు మనం చూసేయాల్సిందే అది బేసికల్ దట్ డేటాబేస్ మైగ్రేషన్ is something that we need to say where we'll be doing that lift and shift basically. We'll be working on that one for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Now you can see here, this is your database endpoint that you can see here. This is what is your database endpoint. Please select this database endpoint and then make sure that you take a notepad. Vaishnavi,
so basically this is nothing but a connect string, no? The other world.
Yeah, this is the endpoint in which you want to create this one. Okay. తర్వాత ఏం చేస్తానంటే ఇక్కడ here what I do is that there is something called as the security groups are there here. Security groups. Within the security groups, when you go to the security group, I'll show you one thing here. Security group is nothing but who need to access and who doesn't need to access and basically. Okay. When you open the security group, I'll show you one thing here. This is running crazy. I think it's taking some time. 1 minute. It should not really take this much time here. Open the security group. Okay. Within the security group, you can see something called as inbound rules. Edit inbound rules. Here, this is mentioning this one here. What I want to do is that I would like to access this. I would like to access this MySQL from anywhere. I think it is still not taking it seems, but I'll tell you. When you select this inbound rule, I'll mention this one as one thing I'll do here. 1 minute. I think it is going to the CC2, right? Where is this one here? RDS. When you go to these databases, these two things are available here. 1 minute. I think it is taking some time, but we have created these databases here, which are readily available here. We have this database 1, we have this database 2 that is existing here. Okay. Now, when you go to this database 2, I'll show you something before we leave here. This is the endpoint that you're having here. And the port what you're having here is 3306. 3306. Okay. And then what you're having is you have something like logs and events, and all other things has been mentioned here. Basically, whatever we have selected, all the summary is being mentioned here. Okay, like the log and how much is the database that is existing here. We can see this particular metrics also as well. We'll be looking into this one. Okay, but now tomorrow once we come back, what we'll do is that we'll try to install this particular SQL Electron. SQL Electron will install, and once we install this one, we'll see how we can have the option of connecting to that, connecting to this database, and then start doing this particular operations that we'll start seeing from tomorrow. Like when I go to the file, when I click on this new window, okay, here I want to create a new database, and then I just want to show you how we can have the option of creating this demo also as well. I'll show you that particular demo. Once we are good with working with respect to this database outside your AWS, then we'll start working on the other things also as well. Okay, so just to reiterate, what are the things that we have done today is we created this RDS. We started with the MySQL. We started with the MySQL. We mentioned the storage, the instance, along with the database name, the user ID, and the password. Whether we need a single AG or multi-AG, those particular things we have mentioned. And finally, what we did is that we created that particular database instance we have created. And this database instance is created within this EC2. And we really don't have any control how this EC2 instance can be maintained. But one thing what we need to do is that tomorrow we need to come and then we need to select, install this SQL Electron and connect from this one to this MySQL, and then start working with respect to the database by creating some tables, inserting the data. All those things we'll start seeing from tomorrow. Okay. Is that okay with you, or any questions you are having? Please let me know. Sham, you are clear?
Yeah, I'm clear.
Manogna?
Yeah, I'm clear, Ravi.
Sumana?
Yes, sir. Clear.
I hope you'll be able to create this database before coming to tomorrow's class, right?
Yeah.
I'll see you the recording. Vinith, you are good? Amar garu? Chandrakala and Kavit garu, I hope you two guys are also good also.
Yes,
as
sir.
well. Okay. So we'll start from tomorrow with respect to that SQL Alcran, and then we'll start working on that one. Okay. Thank you guys, and have a good night, and see you tomorrow.